There are two trades that I believe that can help the Toronto Raptors now and in the future. Welcome to this live. Join me with a coffee. Cheers. This is a weird time to be a Raptor fan. There's a lot of confusion. And today I want to discuss these two trades. I want to give you my rationale behind why these two trades work. I think they are realistic. I don't think that they're asking for the world for very little. I don't think that these are the types of trades where, there's an automatic no. They're fair-ish, right? Whether or not the team would necessarily give up exactly what you want, I don't know about that, but we can certainly make a case that these are rational discussions to be had. So the first trade first of all, who the hell am I? Who am I? Why should you listen to me? Okay, I am the person who said Walker Kessler was not going to be a good player. I also had questions about Christian Braun. I said Peyton Watson was going to be it. I was very sure about that. Okay. I'm a person that would have picked Jabari Smith Jr. over Paolo Banchero and Chet Holmgren. I'm a person that would have picked Dyson Daniels fourth. I probably am wrong about a lot of things, but I also think that I'm right about a lot of things. These are some of the things that I've been right about, and honestly, it is a much longer list than this. And honestly, I take polar opposite thought process on a lot of things. Like, I like to be original. I like to think for myself. I like to have sort of an outlook on basketball that does not necessarily parrot what everyone else is saying. And that means I'm going to be wrong a lot. And I might be wrong here about what I'm saying. I might be completely off base. Hang on one second. Give me 1 sec here. Let me just fix something. And I need blackout blinds in the worst way. So that's sort of my intro to why you should listen to me at all. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I've been thinking a lot about what the Toronto Raptors need, and I've been pretty clear. We did a live yesterday, which went way, way long, and it was a great conversation on team building, team philosophy, and why I don't think Zach LaVine is it. But if Zach LaVine is not it, why do people think Zach LaVine is it? I think people think Zach LaVine is it because this roster has a lot of overlap. There's a lack of spacing. There's a lack of dynamicism. And there's that old saying, too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. Switchable bigs are a really good thing, right? Athletes are a good thing, but athletes who don't necessarily know how to play basketball, not really a good thing. So I started thinking about what I really want on this team. What's lacking? We have 11 games now. So we can make some conclusions about what's lacking on this team. I think shooting is lacking. Okay. Self-creation is lacking. Athletes are not lacking, but athletic, dynamic, shifty athletes are lacking. It's not all straight line drivers. Boucher is a straight line driver. Precious Achiuwa, straight line driver. What you need is a guy who can go left, right. You don't need a guy who can go north, south only. You need a guy who can go left, right. You need a guy who can break down the defense. You need guys who are different types of shooters. You have a corner shooter, you have OG, you're trying to morph him into an above the break guy. But this is not a skill set that it's not clicky. It doesn't happen right away. You need guys who have this skill set. You also need guys who know how to play in your offense. You need guys who have experience playing 0.5 basketball. You need guys because, any trade you make right now, you don't have a training camp to integrate these guys. So you need guys who are plug and play. Otto Porter is a guy who's plug and play. He didn't need to practice with you. He could have missed the entire training camp. He could have come in tomorrow and he would have learned your entire playbook in a minute. Why? Otto Porter is super high IQ, number one. And number two, this is kind of how he's played his whole life. He understands motion offense. So with all of that in mind, I also have one more thing that I need on this team, which is, okay, this is going to be a little triggering for some people who are fans of a lot of young players on this team. There isn't a lot of blue chip talent on this team. Okay. There isn't a lot of high-end talent. What do I mean by high-end talent? I mean guys like Shaedon Sharpe. Okay. I mean guys like that. I mean guys like, let me flash this up for you. I wanted us to tank so bad because we lacked high-end talent. And I thought Victor Wembanyama would be it. But this draft was so great at the top. And if you're looking at guys like Bilal Coulibaly, If you're looking at guys like Asar Thompson, if you're looking at guys, even if you're looking at Case and Wallace, you don't have anyone on that level. You are trying to extract diamonds from a mud pit right now. Okay. You're trying to develop Malachi Flynn, and kudos to Malachi Flynn. He's done a great job. But can you imagine unlocking a player with much higher upside than a Malachi Flynn? Now, this is the Stanley Johnson argument, right? Do we take another swing at a Stanley Johnson level reclamation project? This is the Justice Winslows of the world, right? Guys who have that level of upside. No, we're not talking about Stanley Johnsons and Justice Winslows here. We're not just talking about athletes who you need to teach how to play basketball. No, we're talking about basketball players that need an opportunity, that have real functional athletic skills as basketball players that can be unlocked by an elite development coaching staff. So without further ado, this time I'm actually not going long with this lab because I need people to watch this, and I don't want another 2-hour, 3-hour thing that people have to slog through. So let me try to be pretty succinct in making my point. So first off, these are the players that I want. Okay, the players are as follows: Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes, Brandon Podziemski, Kevin Huerter, Jonathan Kuminga, and Andrew Wiggins. Rob, are you a big fan of Jonathan Kuminga? Hell no. No, I'm not. I'm not a huge fan of Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, nor am I a huge fan of Harrison Barnes, but they fit. They fit. They fit what you're trying to do. They fit, in theory, what you're trying to do. And I think they give you just a little bit more juice, upside. You're going to lose something. You have to lose something to get something. But I think that these trades are going to make some sense. So let's go into the trades. These are the two trades. Okay. You're going to lose a lot. Okay. I got to be clear with you. And the Warriors trade can't happen until January because of Dennis Schroeder's contract. But if the Warriors are struggling, I'll give you the rationale for both sides. Okay. Now, the Kings is a little bit harder to sell. I'm going to assume here that the Kings want financial flexibility, and that for whatever reason, hopefully they value Precious Achiuwa a lot. And hopefully they value Gary Trent Jr. a lot, because Gary Trent Jr. and Kevin Huerter are not very dissimilar players. They're of similar age. It's a pretty lateral move. I think for the Raptors, you get the better shooter. For the Kings, you get the slightly better defender. But I think Kevin Huerter has some level of upside that is beyond this. Now, you are taking Harrison Barnes' 3-year contract, $17 million, thus costing yourself a little bit of financial flexibility. But he is 31 years old. He is not washed by any means, and I'll prove that in the next, graphic or two. But he can help you win. Maybe not as a high-level starter, but as a bench player, he can help. He's a smart player, super smart player. He's been around. He's played with Steph and Clay in that motion offense. He's been part of that 73-win team. And can you imagine that, there's a team out there that won 73 games in the NBA with Harrison Barnes as their starter. He's not that far from the player that he was back then. He's lost a step for sure. You're not getting prime Harrison Barnes, but you're not getting washed Harrison Barnes either. This is not a Thaddeus Young situation. For the Kings, they get financial flexibility for sure. Maybe this allows them to make a pitch at a free agent next year to pair with Fox and Domantas Sabonis. I don't know. But I think that this is a good deal, and this is the deal that can happen tomorrow. Okay? So they can try this out. They can try to implement. They can get Precious Achiuwa. Precious Achiuwa could be the big that they are looking for next to Domantas Sabonis. Like, this could be the fit. He could be unlocked in their motion offense. This is a high upside pick for them. So they're basically taking a swing. You're basically considering this as a, Harrison Barnes plus, Kevin Huerter for Thaddeus Young and Precious Achiuwa, and then you're swapping Kevin Huerter and Gary Trent Jr., right? So I think it's a lateral trade for both sides, but I think the Raptors get better. They get smarter players. The entire intention here is that the smartest players in this deal right now are Thaddeus Young and Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter, right? Thaddeus is not playing for you. Therefore, the value is diminished. His intelligence is diminished because it's not on the basketball court. So you're taking some of the intelligence that Thaddeus Young brings and basically putting it on the basketball court with Harrison Barnes. And with Kevin Huerter, you're going to get a shooter who is just an incredible shooter, who's not having the greatest season so far, but has historically had a great season. And he's basically the actualized version of whatever you want Grady Dick to be, minus some stuff. He tries on defense. He buys in. He's 25 years old. He's a former lottery pick. He's a really good player. He's been part of some really good teams. He's won everywhere he's gone. He won with the Hawks. He's winning with the Kings. He's a winning player. You get winning players back. Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter are winning players. Okay. So the Kings don't get their OG Anunoby. They don't get their Pascal Siakam, but they get like some little version of that in Precious Achiuwa that they can try to unlock. Depends on how they feel about Precious Achiuwa. Maybe this is time to start showcasing Precious Achiuwa to get people, get their appetite a little wet, but they may be able to lock up Precious Achiuwa long term. And I just think that with De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis as your two guys, you need a switchable big. They haven't had one in a while. Okay. They've been trying out different lineups or whatever. I think next to Keegan Murray, De'Aaron Fox, and Domantas Sabonis, the spacing is there for a live wire athlete like a Precious Achiuwa to not have to think too much. They could actually get better with this. Okay. They have Malik Monk as well. I mean, they have nothing but really intelligent players. Why not take a swing on two guys who are not as intelligent, right? You can maybe teach them up. Okay. The second part of this is, I think this is the meat and the potatoes, because here you are getting rid of a very good player in Pascal Siakam. And you're getting back a longer term contract in, Chris Paul, which will turn into an expiring very soon. You're getting another long-term contract back on a guy who's sort of forgotten how to shoot free throws, and Andrew Wiggins, and you're already the worst free throw shooting team. This deal isn't really about Chris Paul and Andrew Wiggins. I think those guys help you right now. I think they fit really well to the type of basketball you want to play. But really, this is about how you feel about the three assets, which is Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Podziemski, and the first round pick in 2026. The Raptors need youth, but it's not enough to get youth. You need youth with actual upside. I like Podziemski a lot. I think he's a really smart player. He has incredible ball skills. He played at Santa Clara. I think this is the type of guy that you can develop into a combo guard off the bench that could pay so many dividends for you down the line in your motion offense. I think he's a really smart player. He's ready to contribute sooner than later. And when we look at his analytics profile, I think you'll see that he's a much better defender than you probably think he is for someone his size. For Jonathan Kuminga, this is your biggest boom bust swing of all of this. If he pops for you, if he works for you, the dividends on that are so extreme and so high. He was a number 7 pick for a reason. I don't see any character flags where I'm like, oh, this guy doesn't want to work. I think he wants to work. I think if you get him in the right program, if there is a development prospect on this team that you really want to grow, look, there are levels of prospects and consider 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, 2-star type prospects in the NBA. I do my own internal thing. I suggest you do the same. I would consider Jonathan Kuminga like a 4-star type prospect. I'm not talking 4-star, 5-star in terms of high school recruiting classes. I'm talking like NBA prospects. Franz Wagner is a 4-star prospect who has worked out much better for the Magic than Jonathan Kuminga has worked out here. Davion Mitchell, he's like a 2-star prospect for me. Okay. The upside on a 4-star prospect is soft all-star. The upside on a 5-star prospect like Scotty Barnes is MVPs. The step down here is you don't have a lot of 4-star prospects on your team. If you look at the Raptors roster right now, Gary Trent Jr. is not a 4-star prospect. To me, he's like a 3-star. When I look at Precious Achiuwa, he's not a 4-star prospect. He's like a 3-star. Look at Malachi Flynn. He's like a 2-star prospect who's actually working out for you now. Where are your 5-star prospects and 4-star prospects? Is Christian Koloko a 4-star prospect? He could be close. I mean, I don't know. You need high upside. You need higher upside players, because if you're going to develop, you might as well develop a guy who has a chance. Okay. And all guys don't have an equal chance. So to take you through my trading rationale, number one, you swap impact for talent. Chris Paul, 38, Andrew Wiggins, 28, and Harrison Barnes, 31, sustain you. They're talented. They understand the basics of how to play the game at a high level, and they have proven it. Number two, the veteran mentorship element of this cannot be understated. Garrett Temple and Chris Paul are not made equal, okay? In Chris Paul, you get a high-level, high IQ mentorship for your youth. He's led to superstar playmaking expansion everywhere. Hear me when I say this. everywhere he has gone, lead initiators and secondary ball handlers have become great initiators. Blake Griffin was not a guy who could create for others before Chris Paul. Devin Booker wasn't a guy who could really create for others before Chris Paul. Shea was less of a playmaker before Chris Paul. He's turned these guys into excellent playmakers. I think he's had this impact pretty much everywhere he's gone. Any teammate he's ever played with, for the most part, especially the better ones, they've always seen a boost to their overall basketball IQ after playing with him. I think he coaches well on the court. What he could do for Grady at 19 years old, what he could do for Scotty even, who's a fantastic playmaker and the best pick and roll ball handler on your team, but he could unlock these guys so much more. OG, Brandon Pajemski, Jonathan Kuminga. He could be so much for you. I think Chris Paul could help you so much right now. He's also a guy who leads to winning so much. Harrison Barnes, Chris Paul, like these guys win. Okay, they win. Masai Ujiri, you want to win? These guys win. Kevin Huerter, he wins. Andrew Wiggins, he hasn't won a lot in his career, but man, he's been winning consistently now. And I mean, he may not be a culture driver for you, but man, he is a live wire athlete. He is a fantastic defender. His defense puts Pascal Siakam to shame. Okay. You maintain a lot of what I would consider like lineup flexibility. You can play so many different ways with this team, right? I'll read you like what the roster would look like after this. Unfortunately, I don't have the graphic on me. I could probably pull it up really quickly, but to visualize what this team would look like. If you're following us on Instagram, I posted about these two trades earlier this morning and it just got me thinking I needed to make this video. But here's the lineup for you, just so you guys have it in your, just to understand what I'm talking about here. So the lineup would be as follows. So at point guard, you have Scotty Barnes, Chris Paul backing him up, and then Malachi Flynn. At shooting guard, you'd have Kevin Huerter, Grady Dick, and Brandon Pajemski. Let Grady and Pajemski battle it out, right? If you get an injury or something, maybe Pajemski becomes your, backup point guard or something for a pinch. Small forward, you have Andrew Wiggins and Jonathan Kuminga. Okay. Power forward, you have OG Anunoby and Harrison Barnes. Okay. I think that OG's ball handling, quickness, etc., will be unlocked at the power forward position. I think playing him as a 4 as opposed to a 3 could help him tremendously. Number one, he's never at a disadvantage defensively against a 4. I can't think of many 4s in the league that could bully him around. But if the goal is to be quick enough to get past your guy and to be able to, unlock some of your playmaking, I think it would help if he was playing the 4 instead of playing 2 and 3. I think it would help him a lot. I also think he's a competent enough rebounder and a guy who boxes out. So I don't think you're going to lose too much there. And I think Andrew Wiggins helps too. At center, and behind him, you would have Harrison Barnes. Then you would have at center, Jakob Poeltl, Otto Porter Jr., and Christian Koloko. Okay. Christian Koloko, if he comes back. So what do you gain? What do you lose? Okay. Well, you probably lose the best player in all of this in Pascal Siakam. I know people are really down on Pascal, but you definitely do lose the best player. Andrew Wiggins is not better than him. Chris Paul is not necessarily better than him, although analytically he's much better than him. Harrison Barnes is not better than him. Kevin Huerter is not better than him. But you get like real depth here, man. You have like crazy lineup flexibility here. Just imagine a lineup of the following players: Chris Paul, Grady Dick, Jonathan Kuminga, Harrison Barnes, Otto Porter. Does that seem like beautiful basketball to you? It seems like beautiful basketball to me. Chris Paul kind of shredding the middle, getting, you're not having non-shooters on the court. You could play 5 out with that team. You know that? Like you could play 5 out. You could have Harrison Barnes and Jonathan Kuminga running the wings. You could have like Grady Dick peeling off of screens and pin downs. You could have Otto Porter popping up above the break. You have Chris Paul navigating the middle, running pick and roll with these guys. Like it's sorry. Oh my God. I have an alarm going off. My bad. I've woken up way later. That's hilarious. An alarm goes off during a live. So I think that this lineup really helps you, right? You do have a non-shooter. You still have Jakob Poeltl, but now around Jakob Poeltl, you have Scotty Barnes, Kevin Huerter, Andrew Wiggins, and OG Anunoby. Think about it. Just think about it. You have cutters galore in OG, Andrew Wiggins, Kevin Huerter, you have a shooter. In Wiggins and OG, you have guys who can set screens, who can really unlock Kevin Huerter. You have downhill athletes still like Andrew Wiggins. If you want to play small, you could easily put OG or Scotty at the 5, and you could play smaller, right? You could play Otto. If you want to put 5 out, like if you want to play 5 out, like you could play a lineup with like really great shooters. You could play Otto, OG, Herder, Grady, Scotty. So Scotty with 4 shooters, you could have that, right? In Grady and Pajimski and Kuminga and Scotty, like those 4 players, you have high level upside, right? So far, sure. Like Grady has not been great so far. I get that. But you're not trying to develop non-basketball players into basketball players here. Every single player that we've traded for here is a born hooper. Okay. Every one of them know how to play the game at a high level. Now, let's look at these players from an analytics profile, and hopefully we can keep this video under 25 to 26 minutes. So here's the analytics profile on your win now players. There are 3 players here: Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes, Andrew Wiggins. Chris Paul is 38 years old. Harrison Barnes is 31 years old. Andrew Wiggins is 28 years old. In terms of the true shooting percentage for Chris Paul and Andrew Wiggins, man, they are struggling like you wouldn't believe. They are really, really struggling, but these are not in line with their career averages or historically. They are still fairly competent offensive players because they do a lot of other stuff, right? They have some creation ability. They can create their own shot. I think Andrew Wiggins is like, I mean, this is a guy who was he was considered the next LeBron, the next Jordan. I mean, seriously, there is some high level ball skills with an Andrew Wiggins, right? In terms of 3-point attempt rate, look at Harrison Barnes' 3-point attempt rate, 76 percentile, 56.2% 3-point attempt rate. These guys take smarter shots. Like for the most part, Harrison Barnes' shot quality and Chris Paul's shot quality is incredible. It's 67th percentile and 79th percentile. You have guys who take efficient shots. Andrew Wiggins, not the most efficient shot selection, but you don't have to have him be a creator in your offense. You could have Scotty and Chris Paul creating so much for him, right? You could even have Pajinski doing a little bit of creation for you. I think you could do Jakob creation, right? Like Jakob is a really smart player. He could play with Andrew Wiggins. He can play off of Andrew Wiggins. And Wiggins creates a lot of space because he's a live wire athlete. In terms of defense, I think, Chris Paul is a fairly limited defender at this age, but he is still a much better defender than a lot of people give him credit for. Even at 38 years old, he has his limitations, but he's a super smart defender. I think with Chris Paul, you get like a much better version in a different package of what you lost with Fred VanVleet, which is you get like high impact, intelligent point guard play. A guy who knows how to set guys up. And unlike Fred VanVleet, he's not trying to bet on himself at this point. He's just trying to win. Okay. So he and Scotty are going to be best friends right away. Okay. With Wiggins, you get probably the second best defender on your team. I mean, the potential of Andrew Wiggins. I mean, you realize just a year ago, we were talking about Andrew Wiggins being the best player in the finals. You remember that? He's 28 years old, man. Like the upside on this guy is insane. Like I understand that maybe, this is the bridge we don't cross with the Warriors. Maybe they think Andrew Wiggins is a better player than Pascal Siakam. Maybe they do. I don't know. I hope they don't. That would make this trade impossible. But he is struggling. He has been away from the team for a bit. Last year, there was some personal stuff. I don't know what's going on. I don't have any insight into it. But I could assume that they see Siakam as a significant enough, all NBA type upgrade that in their system with Draymond, with Steph, with Clay, the amount of space they could create for a guy like Pascal Siakam to drive and attack and to use his ball skills. I mean, it's like some shit you've never seen before. Like Siakam can do a lot of what Draymond can do. He's just a much better player in theory. So if they buy the upside there, the reason for the Warriors to do this really is for the slight upgrade to the starting lineup, right? By getting Siakam in there and maybe being able to play. I think they get a lot of what they had with Andre Iguodala with him to some extent. It's a two-way impact. They could probably, I think Steve Kerr could really, help Pascal Siakam sort of learn the game within that offense as well. Obviously, how he's played so far in Darko's offense is not going to be like some great glowing indication of how he's going to do with the Warriors. But I think with Steph, with Clay, I think he would buy in almost automatically. I think he would respect those guys and their pedigree enough. And shoot, nobody wants to get punched in the face by Draymond Green, right? This is a calculated gamble to elevate the final window of Steph Curry's prime. And you're going to trade some youth, and you're going to give up a pick, and you're going to get back not just Pascal Siakam, right? You're getting back a little bit more than Pascal Siakam. You're getting back Dennis Schroeder, who replaces some of what Chris Paul is supposed to do for you. But you also get back Chris Boucher, a guy who started out in your system and can really, really, really work in the Golden State Warriors offense, man. Chris Boucher is probably one of the better players in this deal, for sure. He does so many good things on the basketball court. He has been like soft, like our MVP off the bench so far this year. He's so instrumental. So you're never going to be able to get something without losing something. I'm talking about all the benefits of getting Chris Paul and Brandon Podziemski and the upside of Kuminga and a first round pick. You're good, and you know the defensive upside of an Andrew Wiggins and being able to pair Wiggins, OG, and Scotty and creating this defensive wall of players that are so incredible. Like, you imagine the defensive upside of a Scotty Barnes. Just think about this: Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby, Andrew Wiggins, Otto Porter, and like Jakob Poeltl or Christian Koloko. Like, how are you supposed to score on that lineup? That's a crazy defensive lineup. Right now, Andrew Wiggins is struggling largely because I think Clay is struggling, man. I think Clay struggles defensively a lot. I mean, there's so many defensive holes to make up for right now for the Golden State Warriors. There aren't those holes here. Andrew Wiggins can beast. He could be so incredible here. And he's also he's a local. He's a hometown kid, right? It would be a homecoming for Andrew Wiggins. And from an MLSE perspective, why do you do this from a business side? Yo, Maple Jordan, bro. Like, I mean, there are people who will actually support Andrew Wiggins more than they would support a player of similar ilk if they were not Canadian. You are bringing home one of the premier Canadian players in the NBA, and you're bringing him to be, like a major contributor for you. So again, I think that this is a great pair of trades. I think it could help the Raptors a lot in the interim, but also in the future. I think it does there are some downsides, of course. You lose the best player in all of this. Agreed. I think Pascal Siakam is just that much better than Andrew Wiggins, but you rebalance it. When you think about what you're losing here, I mean, if I had to rank all of these players out, I could make a case that you're losing the best player in this deal, in all of these deals. But you're also like kind of getting back like the second, third, fifth, sixth, seventh, like you're replacing something. And I think from a fit perspective next to Scotty, you need these types of players. You need live wire athletes. You need guys who know how to play the basketball game. You need guys who have high IQ. So I'm going to respond to some questions here. See if, there's bring Wiggins home, better than Levine trade. Agreed. I do this deal, no lie. Oh, he will have no choice, man. If Pascal can move off his heliocentric mindset, of course, he will have absolutely no choice. Like with Steph and Clay, there are championships on the line. With Steve Kerr, there's a real Zen master appeal. He knows how to connect with players. Maybe in a way right now, the Darko cannot connect the pedigree of a Steve Kerr, the championships, all that stuff. Siakam will fall right in line with that team, man. I have no doubt. There's no way in hell Siakam pulls the shit that he's pulling with us, with those guys right now. Absolutely, man. We need mentors to shape the next generation. I completely agree with that. Zena saying, all your trade suggestions for me are just wishful thinking and it will not happen 1,000,000%. Okay. Apparently Xena Warrior Princess went off, right? You never sleep, do you? I mean, I did sleep, but yeah. Anyways, make sure to give this live a like. I hope this was reasonably succinct. I probably took about 30 minutes to express a 10-minute idea. I apologize, but hopefully it was efficient enough and not as rambly as my usual ones. Have a good one. See you after the Celtics game. Go Raptors. Hope we win. Take care. Bye.